Mutiba manages to trick Oma and Okubo and steals the medal from Oma. Oma threatens to take it back by force, to which Mutiba boldly challenges him to try.
Suddenly, Mutiba turns and runs, prompting Okubo to chase after him only for him to get his foot caught in a hidden hole, causing him to trip and fall.
The trap catches Okubo completely off guard.
Mutiba laughs, warning him to watch his step unless he wants to keep falling into traps like that. He then pulls a leaf attached to a tree branch, triggering a bundle of logs to crash down. Mutiba remarks that the trap is simple since he didn't have much time to prepare, but effective enough to knock a man unconscious.
As Oma rushes to help Okubo, he realizes that Mutiba must have rigged his escape routes with traps before ever engaging them.
Furious, Okubo shouts at Mutiba, calling him a moron and pointing out that weapons aren't allowed in the tournament, and argues that traps should count as weapons. Mutiba calmly plants his foot on the trap and counters, stating that while the rules forbid bringing weapons into the arena, they say nothing about procuring or crafting them inside. He then tells Oma that he has no intention of standing in his way, so if Oma wants to settle his business with Shinwulong, he's free to do so.
However, Mutiba admits that he's aiming for the win.
He acknowledges that he wouldn't stand a chance in a straight-up fight, but this kind of battlefield is where he excels. Mutiba adds that he sees no reason for Oma to fight him, but if Oma dislikes what he's done, he's welcome to come after him whenever he's ready.
With that, Mutiba walks away. Okubo shouts in frustration, realizing they can't safely pursue him because of the traps he's left behind.
However, Oma points out that there are no more traps ahead, since Mutiba couldn't have set that many in such a short amount of time.
This confuses Okubo, who asks if Oma already realized that and still chose to let Mutiba escape.
Oma replies that Mutiba was right about having the upper hand, but admits that if he's going to fight him, he'd prefer to do it somewhere else.
Okubo disagrees, asking Oma if he doesn't see the urgency of the situation.
Mutiba has the medal, and if it falls into enemy hands, the Kengan team could be finished.
Oma then asks Okubo a simple question: does he really believe Mutiba is working alone? Okubo looks puzzled at first, but the implication soon clicks. He asks if Oma means that Mutiba has a collaborator. Oma reminds Okubo that he knows how cautious Mutiba is, so he doubts Mutiba would make enemies of them, or of Wulong if he were acting alone. Oma finishes by warning Okubo that their enemy isn't operating solo.
Just as Oma predicted, Mutiba meets up with his collaborators and tells them he has secured the medal exactly as planned.
The figure on the right asks Mutiba whether he thinks Oma will notice they're working together. Another figure replies that Oma will eventually figure it out, but he can't say the same for Okubo. Mutiba says it doesn't matter if their alliance is discovered, because they're going to win regardless. He then urges them to move quickly, reminding them that the area is about to close off. Finally, he addresses them by name, saying he has high hopes for both Hatsumi and Mikazuchi Rei.
Back in the spectators area, the audience watches the alliance of the three displayed on the big screen. Yamashita is confused as to why Hatsumi and Mikazuchi would work alongside Mutiba. He expected Mutiba to betray the Kengan team due to his mercenary nature, but Hatsumi and Rei siding with him makes far less sense.
Also witnessing the scene, Matsuda turns to Soryuan and asks if Hatsumi shared his plans with her, but she admits that he never told her anything.
Nogi tells Yamashita to remain calm, pointing out that they still don't know for certain whether the trio has truly betrayed the Kengan team.
Yamashita agrees, but wonders what their true end goal could be. The scene then shifts to Ryuki and Koga, who notice that they've emerged from the woods. Ryuki wonders where they ended up, as the area now resembles a town. Koga guesses that the Kengan Association must have used it during the Annihilation tournament.
He reminds Ryuki that they're still inside a zone that's about to close off, and urges him to keep moving. Suddenly, Koga spots Agito standing nearby with a serious expression. Facing him is none other than the self-proclaimed executioner of justice, AKOYA Seishu. Agito tells Koga and Ryuki to stay back as AKOYA approaches, muttering his catchphrase: "Executing justice." As I said before, the wish will entice some members of the Kengan team to betray their allies and go for the win. However, I didn't expect Mikazuchi Rei and Hatsumi to join Mutiba in that betrayal. I'm also surprised that Oma and Okubo let Mutiba get away with the medal so easily, especially after Oma threatened to take it back and genuinely looked ready to fight him. The two of them could have jumped Mutiba before he escaped, even with the possibility of more traps.
Oma eventually figured out that there couldn't have been many traps, since Mutiba didn't have much time to prepare. Even so, he still chose to let him go, seemingly so he could fight him later. I understand that Oma realized Mutiba wasn't acting alone. We literally see Mutiba meet up with Hatsumi and Mikazuchi Rei, but they look like they were still a fair distance away. Oma and Okubo seem to have plenty of time to take Mutiba down and reclaim the medal before Hatsumi and Rei even caught wind of what was happening. Now that the medal is in the hands of these three, it seems like they're aiming for the prize themselves. That said, as Nogi pointed out, this still isn't definitive proof that they betrayed the Kengan Association, so we'll have to wait and see what their real plan is. I initially thought Hatsumi and Rei were worried about Oma discovering their alliance with Mutiba and were actively trying to avoid him given his immense strength. But it now seems more likely that they simply wanted to keep the alliance secret from the other competitors, so they wouldn't attract unnecessary enemies. Personally, I don't see this alliance lasting very long. There can only be one winner, so eventually they'll have to turn on each other and fight over the medal. I'm sure they already realize this and probably have plans to betray one another down the line, especially Mutiba, who is exactly the type of person you'd expect to pull something like that. This chapter also brings us back to the town used during the Annihilation tournament. Since it hasn't been used since then, it's fairly barren now, making it the perfect setting for a brawl, which we get with AGITO and AKOYA. As I mentioned in my previous video, I predicted that AKOYA wouldn't cooperate with the Kengan team. He's far too unstable to function as a teammate and would inevitably try to enforce his warped version of justice. It looks like that insanity has now driven him to challenge AGITO, someone he must see as worthy of judgment. AKOYA and Ryuki do know each other, so maybe Ryuki can try to persuade AKOYA from fighting AGITO, since AKOYA does kinda see him as his successor. I don't think anyone is going to conveniently show up and stop this fight, because once AKOYA has decided who he wants to execute, it's extremely difficult to dissuade him. Hopefully, we actually get to see this fight play out without it being interrupted or postponed. I'm fairly confident that AGITO will defeat AKOYA. AKOYA will probably put up a solid fight, but in the end, I don't see him winning unless he pulls off some kind of miracle. We've already seen AKOYA nearly lose to Lution, a fighter AGITO completely dismantled, so it's hard to imagine AKOYA walking away from this unless he suddenly gets a massive power boost or the area closes, forcing everyone to evacuate. I was honestly hoping AKOYA would have run into Nicholas instead of AGITO, since Nicholas is far more deserving of AKOYA's twisted sense of justice. Unfortunately, for AKOYA, his time might be cut short if he can't survive this encounter with AGITO. If he does survive this encounter, then hopefully he will run into Nicholas, alongside Lou. It would be interesting if they both tag team Nicholas, to try and combat his new Sahate and end him once and for all. I also went back and checked the participant list and noticed something surprising: Kiryu Setsuna isn't competing in this tournament. I thought he'd at least be motivated to join since both Oma and Ryuki are present. However, considering how abruptly he left Oma in the hospital, it seems he might be dealing with his own business, possibly hunting down Nico. That said, there's still a chance he could sneak into the tournament and disrupt everything. We'll just have to wait and see if he ends up playing a role. That's all for today, but let me know how long do you think the fight will last between AKOYA and AGITO. Until next time, I'll see you soon.